It all happened live on TV.
He had a lot of anger. He had a lot of mental issues.
All right, let's try this again. This is going to be recording number 4 on Friday, September 18th, 2015. This is Scott Anthony for Flash News Network, going over the shooting survivor, Vicki Gardner, who gave her interview on Greta, Fox News Channel. I believe that was on around September 10th or so. This interview is important for a couple of reasons. First of all, what you're about to listen to doesn't match at all what is in the video depiction from either the videographer on scene with the local affiliate, Adam Ward was a photographer, and it doesn't really match the camera that we saw from this guy over here that we're looking at. So I don't know who this guy is. Doesn't matter. Bottom line is, I don't think anything really matches up really right. So let's take a look. We're going to go through here and we'll go play by play, and hopefully we can rip right through this and you can see really easily for yourself what I look at when I look at somebody giving an interview and what's going on.
Heart just goes
might
out
skip
to
a little
Allison
bit here.
and Adam, and they're so young. They, why save me and take them?
The whole nation is mourning tonight.
Obviously, there's a purpose, and by golly, I will fulfill it. We were lined up and we were talking, and what are we going to do, and just our usual fun conversation. And
Okay, so the first thing that I noticed right off the bat was that she stated her usual conversation. So I don't know how many conversations she usually has with her television news crew. Yeah, she's on the Chamber of Commerce apparently locally, but I'm still not thinking that she has regularly scheduled interviews or regularly scheduled conversations with Allison Parker. So that was the first thing that stuck out as odd. Let's continue.
And Adam's all set up in front of me. And
Adam's set up in front of me. Well, he's not set up in front of her. Okay, Allison Parker, who we see here, is in front of her. The survivor, Vicki Gardner, has her back to the railing, and the photographer, obviously that you can't see because he's behind the camera lens right now, is to her left and slightly in front of her. So the positioning of everything makes all the difference in the world. Let's continue.
Allison was alongside of me.
She's not alongside of her. She's in front of her. You can see by body posture alone that Vicki Gardner is looking straight ahead. She's not turning to her, she doesn't have her head turned to the right or to the left. She is in fact perfectly aligned, almost straight. Allison Parker is in fact in front of her, looking straight at her. She's not on her side, she's not to her left, and she's not to her right. Let's continue.
And we saw a motion, and I don't want to go so much into this because it's already been said over.
So twice we just saw Allison Parker look to the right. Now that was also captured on the camera of the shooter apparently, or the alleged shooter, whoever that was that came there that day. Allison Parker made 2 distinct looks to the right. She has peripheral vision unless there's some medical condition such as glaucoma that I'm not aware of that would prevent her from seeing a rather large male approaching her from her right side. That said, it's almost impossible to say that she didn't see the shooter. Additionally, she's still looking straight at Vicki Gardner.
Over and over again, but we did see a motion.
There's another motion to the right. So Allison, that's 3 looks to the right. There's no way she missed now at this point. Somebody coming at her, and that gun that we saw in the video was in fact elevated already. So there's no way she missed this.
That seemed a little unusual. We couldn't quite place it. Was it somebody looking for something? Was it somebody that maybe was here for maintenance that wanted to ask a question? And my thought was, is he going to ask a question while we're talking on air?
These are all deflecting type statements. She avoided the question entirely and is coming up with Sandy Hook type statements that you've heard in 2012. Was it a maintenance man? Was it pots and pans dropping? Oh, it could be somebody coming to ask a question. These are all statements that don't make a whole lot of sense given the severity of the event being reported.
This, you noticed him while you were live. That was the first time you noticed him.
That was it.
And just where was he when you first noticed him? Was he straight ahead from you, or?
I was again. He was just kind of coming down the walkway.
Notice her right hand is the one that's making the motion, as if she's saying he's coming from the right. We all know this to be untrue. In fact, he came from in front of her. which means she would be more than likely using her left hand to pull and pulling straight in, because even subconsciously she'd be recalling him coming from in front towards her, not from behind, not from the side.
Next to the rail.
And there we saw she's making the motion, pulling in front. So she, in fact, subconsciously is telling you he came from in front, no matter what she's saying about the side or in the back.
And I just saw movement. You know, you were paying attention to.
She's indicating she's looking straight ahead at either the camera or her interviewer, which would be Allison Parker.
Camera, and you have the peripheral, and that's what I saw. Sort of boxy. I can't describe it. Obviously, he was in full armor. So
she can't describe it. She's referring to her peripheral vision, which has at least a 180-degree field of view. She would clearly be able to see him approaching from the front and to the left. And she's giving a very concise statement that he was wearing armor. Now, that's not something you see peripherally. That's something you would see if you're looking at a person getting a good intake of what they're wearing. I'll continue.
That may explain the boxy. And then.
So what did you see next then?
He basically came up behind. We're talking, and you know, again, it was a tiny bit of a distraction, probably more than I would even recognize. But then it was just very, very fast, and I saw movement, and then gunfire.
So she said again, he came from behind. We all know he did not come from behind. He came from maybe behind the cameraman, but he was certainly not from behind her location.
And lots of gunfire. And, you know, from that point, it was very chaotic. I realized that Adam was down in front of me, and Allison was not to the side of me any longer.
So, again, she's got the positioning wrong on where people were, but let's continue.
And so I'm really, and I won't say face to face because I can't say that I was looking at him. I was not trying to make eye contact. And so the only thing I could think of is play dead. And so the only thing I could think of is play dead. And so as the fire was happening, he doesn't know who he's hitting or who he is not hitting.
Right there is a very interesting statement, because it's actually not clear as to how she knows what the shooter's frame of mind was as to who he was hitting, who he wasn't hitting, and what his next plan of action was. So I find it very interesting that she made that statement right there.
And I don't think. And
Qualifier.
I just fell to the ground as though I had been hit and went into fetal position because I felt as though he was going to shoot me in the head. And so I needed to hide that. So if he thought he already had, but he did come back up and...
So he did come back up, meaning the first, probably what we heard, 14 rounds, were not actually shot at Vicki Gardner. We heard, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it was 14 rounds. The first 2 that we saw in the video were aimed at either Vicki or Allison. I'm going to pull up another video that was really good that actually highlights the shooting in slow motion. So let's take a look at that.
Following up on yesterday's report on the Virginia shooting, and thanks to a show tip from a viewer, we are able to bring this comparison to center stage. By analyzing the footage in slow motion, here's what we don't see. We never see the shell actually discharge from the chamber. What's even more important, even more persuasive, is the fact that the gun goes off scene right after the first round. It continues to fire and everyone just assumes that real bullets are flying. We never see the impacts of the supposed anti-personnel rounds that were being used. So we see that first shot being fired, but we don't actually see a shell casing get ejected from the gun. And then the gun goes off scene and we don't see anything after that. We just have to assume. That's the magic of special effects. You saw what you thought you saw, but you didn't actually see it happen. In my opinion, they could have at least used the full Hollywood movie kit, where pressurized paint discharges or something. Maybe next time, and there will be a next time. Our tax...
So I think you can see the difference between a actual 9mm Glock being fired on the left and what we saw in Virginia on the right. Let's continue.
And shot me in the back, and which I thought went through my spine, and thankfully, again, I have so many angels around me or something that it didn't happen that way, but and that was very quiet. It was just very quiet.
Now, that statement right there, it was quiet, it was just very quiet. We have heard this before, and we heard this 2012. That's exactly when we heard it. I keep going back to these Sibley characters because you know what? When they say stuff, it sticks.
Walked to the doorway and there was another mom standing there, and all the while I'm thinking to myself, the building is so quiet, and why is it so quiet?
If that's not close enough for you, I don't know what is, because they're almost the exact same phraseology, probably have the same script writers, but let's go on.
I don't know whether he tried to fire off a couple more rounds. I was just concentrating on being so still that he wouldn't shoot me again. And then it was quiet. And it was early in the morning, and there really wasn't anyone around, not understanding quite. This had happened live. It didn't register for me. I didn't know how badly I was bleeding, but I was on a deck, and so, you know, obviously blood would go down rather than pool on a deck.
Okay, inaccurate statement. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that have decking that knows that, yes, some of the fluid will go through the about 3mm space between each deck, or maybe it's a little bit wider than that, you know, between the plankings. But even like a Trex deck or whatever will still not repel 100%. Blood, fluids of any kind, even water pulls up on decking. So I don't know what kind of decking, magical decking or whatever exists in this community in Virginia, but in most 99% of the other places that have decking, you're still going to get pooling of fluids, especially if you're talking about blood, which is a little bit more viscous than just water. So sorry, it's not all going to drain down the sides and disappear into La La Land. And even if it did, there's still going to be somebody that's going to do an assessment of the fluids on the ground. So odd statement to make.
There's a lot of unknowns. It seemed like a very, very long time, which it wasn't, of laying there and looking over and trying to assess the situation, and then
that indicates right there the head movement to the left and to the right. She's looking to her left and looking to her right, indicating that Adam and or Allison are next to her on her right and or left sides.
You know, I heard the police come in, and two people came in with their guns, still not knowing where the shooter was.
And she knows this by playing dead. I don't know how she knows that the police are coming in with their guns drawn, etc., but let's go on.
Not trying to secure the area, trying to assess our situation.
So now she knows the mindset of the police. So again, this is either given to her and she's read it and is just accidentally spitting this out, but let's go on.
Of the three people laying there, and realizing that I was alive, they said, "Can you get up?" And didn't know I could or couldn't, but we got up. And
I just want to stop right there. We got up. I'm not sure if that's just a local vernacular or if that's a common phraseology that a lot of people use, but it could be interpreted to mean we got up, as in we, one of two or three people, got up, or we, as in the police officer, crouched down and helped me get up. So I'm not sure which one it is. And
they tried to, while securing, while holding their guns, while looking, while two men doing all of this and trying to help me to safety, and went into a truck. And then it was so that I would be somewhat secure. She was going to say quiet again, but she didn't. Sure, while they're risking their lives out there. And then the emergency vehicle came, and all was well.
Did the killer say anything, or did he just came up silently?
Very silent. Very silent.
Very, and that's the look. So now she's mimicking what the killer, supposedly, what his facial expression was. Now, before, she'd already said that she didn't really make eye contact with him, didn't really see him at all. So this is, again, another contradiction of fact or statement.
That's all.
And that's it.
That's all. It was just, you know, a unanticipated, and you can review it and probably. That's all. That's all. It was just, you know, a unanticipated, and you can review it and probably talk it over 18 times.
I've heard the number 18 mentioned a few times, so if anybody else is an expert with numbers out there, hit me up with the reasoning for the number 18 being mentioned a few times in interviews and other places. Also, she doesn't really complete her thought ever on what's going on.
And each time it will be the thought that goes through, you know, did I read this well? Thankfully, I felt like I read it well enough that I dropped.
So she's talking about reading it well, read it well, and she dropped. She could be talking about, you know, as people read other people, or she's talking about as she can read a script and is playing it out. Either way, the statement is kind of unusual.
Because had I continued to stand there, I would not be here talking to you.
Now, actually, given the fact that she said she dropped, she did have time to escape. I mean, that is the fact. Would anybody else do the same thing in the same situation? I don't know. If it was a real shooting, then the first two shots, at least, missed her, and likely missed Allison Parker, who ran, and the shooter went after Allison Parker, based on the fact that she ran in the other way, and we hear the shooter run after her. So Vicki Gardner could have actually fled the area, but she didn't.
You don't get much time to think about that stuff.
No, you really don't. And again, you know, a lot of thoughts. My heart just goes out to Allison and Adam, and they're so young. They, you know, why save me and take them? But obviously there's a purpose, and by golly, I will fulfill it.
So she's talking about why so young, and it sounds like something like Gene Rosen would say. So in the prior videos I did, it was very Gene Rosen-esque. And again, she's referring to now a bigger purpose to this event. As in all events that we have on national TV, there's always a bigger purpose. There's always one or two individuals that stand out as being the martyr or the spokesperson or the one that's going to elevate this whole event into some national brouhaha to do something. Of course, it never happens. Even Sandy Hook Promise kind of fizzled out, besides the fact they send emails to people like 24/7. So, yeah, let's go on.
So Adam was shot first or second?
I believe first. It was, again, when you're looking at, and it's
incomplete thoughts going on here, left and right.
It was just rapid fire, all in this direction. It wasn't down. It was just right face wise. How he missed me, I just don't know.
But if you drop down, is it he does face level
I
of
think
the other two?
was gone when I dropped.
And
there is no clear answer. As actually, Greta was doing the right thing by doing a follow-up and saying, but if you dropped, how could you say that all the gunshots were at face level? She spit out some garbled message here. I don't know what she even said, so let's hit it again. Let's see if anybody can make out what she's saying, because I cannot make out what she's saying.
All in this direction. It wasn't down. It was just right face wise. How he missed me, I just don't know.
But if you drop down, is it he does face level
I
of
think
the other two?
was gone when I dropped.
And then
I think she said, I think the other two were gone when I dropped. I don't know for sure that that's what she said, but it sounded something similar to that.
But then he shot you.
He came back, I believe, came back by me and shot me.
So she's not sure if the shooter came back for her, but clearly he did, because we hear the 14 rounds going off before we run out of video to look at. So I'm assuming that her bullet is number 16 or 17, depending on whether we're going with 16 in the mag and 1 in the chamber, or 16 and just that's it.
So as sort of an afterthought.
Sort of, well, just in case.
Yeah, so again, she's speaking for the shooter, saying, well, just in case.
No,
And said nothing.
nothing.
Never a word, not a scream.
No. So it was, again, tragic. There's, so we have a long way to go.
Now here she starts going into philosophical thinking. We have a long way to go, blah, 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 blah.
On understanding what would possess somebody to have that much anger.
Any idea or concept of how long you were lying there next to Adam and Allison before anyone else showed up?
That's the $1 million
That is
question.
the $1 million question. I think it was 5 minutes. I don't know, because
I'm thinking the $1 million question is more, who was the shooter? Why did the shooter come and go after Allison and Adam? You know, that's more of a $1 million question. I don't think the $1 million question is really what you just were asked.
the television station called into 911, and they immediately picked that up. They're just right up the street, and so they were there quickly. It seemed forever, but it probably wasn't.
But I mean, even 5 minutes is forever in a situation like that.
It's
Even
forever when
even
you
a
don't
minute.
know how badly you're bleeding, and you don't know the situation of the...
So this is all, you know, it seems to be fairly humorous to Vicki Gardner, and I'm sure it's not, but going off what we're seeing and what we have in front of us, there's a few other things I want to point out. She's indicating by her body language here clearly that there's somebody to her left and to her right, and by that I mean directly to her right and to her left, because she's not indicating with her arms down outward, it's down to the right. So she's indicating there's people close to her on the left and to the right, different from what the narrative says. The other thing, she was reported to have a critical back injury. She was shot by a hollow point bullet out of a Glock 9. So therefore, I mean, the back contains access to all your vital organs, a pair of lungs, a pair of kidneys. Actually, you can get to the liver and spleen that way. You have the aorta coming off the top of the heart and descending aorta down the bottom of the heart. You have the spinal column, of course, which is it's actually a bigger target than people think. So she reportedly had a critical injury, not less than, what, a month ago. And here she is, sitting upright in a wooden chair, arms extended, which is in and of itself very difficult to do if you're shot in the back and, you know, muscle tissue is destroyed and all that. But she has free movement of her arms. She's able to sit upright, no problem moving her head, no problem moving any muscle group in the body, and appears to be as healthy as anybody could possibly be at that stage of her life. I mean, she actually looks very good.
Two people next to you, is there something that can be done for them?
And you don't know if he's coming back.
And you don't know if he's coming back, and you don't know if he's around the corner, and you just, it's terror, that's all.
It's terror. That's all. It's terror. See? That was an ingrained statement right there.
Have you seen that video? I mean, you've seen the video? Mm-hmm. Why? Just curious?
So that when we have our interview, I would be able to piece together in my mind, so that I can put my mind at peace, that I'm not conjuring up something that wasn't.
What you just did. I mean, that whole statement right there is not even factual. She's saying she watched the video of the shooting so she can fill in the blanks in her mind of what happened, and she can give a factual statement. But what she's doing is she's now giving a statement that's not factual. It's actually a lot of guessing as to what was the mindset of the shooter and the police responding, and she's making statements about evidence and stuff like that. None of this is really what happened. What happened to her lasted about 15 seconds, which is a long time if you're getting shot at. I grant you that. But that's all that happened. So I don't know how she's getting to these statements.
You might just as well you know, you can't take this and bury it. You've got to, there'll be a long path.
See, I watched that video, and I have to confess, I've watched it a couple times, and it's just, to me, it's the most horrible, you know, it's like, I mean, videotaping a double homicide in a shooting.
That's exactly right. Yep. And the helplessness of it.
What went through your mind as you watched it?
I just watched it.
No thoughts whatsoever. I just watched it.
Just watched it.
I just watched it. I took it.
Yep, she just said it again. She just watched it. That's it.
Did it feel real?
Nope.
So it doesn't feel real. Are we surprised about that?
Felt like you're watching somebody else?
No.
Not like watching somebody else.
It just felt like, you know, sometimes you can just put a blank screen in front of things.
So, you know, you can just put a blank screen in front of things. I mean, we do that every day, right?
That you can put a veil over something. I put a veil over it and needed to watch it. And I'll probably, you know, over the course of time, over the course of healing, who knows what, you know, what your mind's going to do. Minds are just, you know.
Minds are just crazy is what she was going to say.
Able to take you in any direction that you, so let's just get the facts. Let's do it right. Let's,
So we don't really have the facts. We have a lot of conjecture here.
let's move from there.
Is it a good thing that he killed himself, the killer, so that there's no trial and continuing sort of drama on this?
Stepping back real quick.
Move from there.
Is it a
That look right there is, she's giving a telltale sign that she wants this interview to be done. Watch her look down.
You know what your mind's going to do. Minds are just, you know, able to take you in any direction that you, so let's just get the facts. Let's do it right. Let's move from there.
Yeah, right there. She wants out of this interview. She's done with the questions.
Is it a good thing that he killed himself, the killer, so that there's no trial and continuing sort of drama on this? Is that a good thing?
I don't know. He did what he did. It certainly does take an awful lot of the drama out of it, doesn't it?
And it certainly takes the drama out of it. It certainly does when you don't have any witnesses besides yourself to actually testify as to what happened. Much like, oh, I don't know. What are some other cases where we have no witnesses? We have, seems like that's like the way it goes now. You have a mass murderer, you have a serial killer, you have somebody, but there's no witnesses because conveniently they're dead.
It's over. That part of it. There's a lot of things to piece together. If he was here, it'd be a completely different scenario, but I can't paint that picture. I don't know what that picture would be. I don't think it'd be any more pleasant.
When the whole thing was sort of going down, did fear grip you, this whole thing, or did it just happen too fast, the shooting? I mean, what
it happened fast. I was very, very surprised of one thing. And, you know, I'll tell you what it was, because it still surprises me, is that I was laying down. I realized it was quiet and everybody was down, and I didn't know where he was. I felt as though the next shot, I knew the next shot he was just going to shoot me in the head, because that was what he was doing.
So she does know what he's doing, or she doesn't know what he's doing, but she's guessing, so I'm not sure which is which.
And it didn't fire or whatever. He shot me in the
So, sounds like a misfire? I'm not sure.
back, and I was waiting for him to shoot me in the head. When he shot me in the back, I said, I'm going to be paralyzed. Darn.
Is that a normal reaction, by the way, for getting shot in the back? I mean, granted, I'm sure she wanted to be in the fetal position and play dead, but I don't know. Getting shot in the back is a fairly painful experience, and I don't know that the first reaction is I got shot in the back and I'm going to be paralyzed. Darn.
And then I waited, and then I said, and it goes real quick. They say, oh, your mind, you know, world goes in front of you, and it did real fast, and I said, I'm ready. So I was really very much at ease. It had it happen. I felt I didn't want it.
So again, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here, but why are these incidents and the people surrounding them, they all seem to glee and be, really okay with being against the natural order of things. The natural order of things is that, or natural law, is that survival is ingrained in every person's DNA. Unless you are psychotic or there's something really twisted with you, you're always going to have fight or flight first and survival as first and foremost reactions. Playing dead can be part of that as a tactic, yes, I grant you, but that's not what she's talking about. She's talking to giving in immediately to a very rapid incident. That's not the normal reaction. A normal reaction is actually what we saw with Allison Parker, if that's true, where she ran. That is a fight or flight response. Her first reaction was to run, which was a smart one. Smarter one would have been diving over the damn rail, but okay, that's neither here nor there. But it seems like we get survivors or family members or people that are surrounded by it that are just okay with everything that happens. Much like Sandy Hook, everybody was okay with it, and they all painted on coffins and drew pictures and had autographs on it, and everybody was in a better place. And this is all 2 hours after it happened. Let's go on TV and discuss national policy and fundraisers, and let's bake cookies and cupcakes, and everything is all daisies and unicorns and rainbows and fairy dust. So tell me if I'm wrong, but look at these faces. These are happy faces.
No. But I wasn't in like an oh my gosh.
So something you should have been.
It just went through, and I said, I've had a good life.
So this is part one. I mean, this got all messed up because my other video just didn't take the audio. I don't even know if this one's going to take it, but the second one is going to be with the husband of this person, Vicky, who gets it even more twisted. So hope this makes sense. Let's go to. I'll do the second one to see if it uploads.